مساء الخير مشاهدينا واهلا وسهلا فيكم بحلقه جديده من برنامجكم شؤون الناس Public Affairs. بيطلع لكم كل خميس الساعه 8 نناقش قضاياكم المهمه والملحه مع ضيوف من اهل الاختصاص. اليوم بيصيرنا نستضيف كل من الدكتور محمد سهوبه. اهلا وسهلا دك. Thank you for being here. And then عضو مجلس البلدي في ديربورن ليزلي هيريك. Lizlie, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me here.
This is a welcome to the Public Affairs show. It's every Thursday from 8 to 9. So this is your first appearance with me through my show and through WhatsApp media, I bet, as a talk show guest.
That's right.
And hope will be your last. So thank you for being here. مشاهدينا الكرام، بحب حييكم واتشكركم على طول على دعمكم المستمر. بلا دعمكم ما فيناش نستمر. فحلقتنا اليوم حتكون عن قضية ميديكال ماريجوانا. كان هذا شيء أثار الكثير من التساؤلات والنقاش في الأسبوعين المنصرمين عن وين وكيف وليش ولأمتين. فحنناقش اليوم، من هيك جبنا وصرنا نستضيف كل من عضو مجلس البلدي ليزلي ودكتور محمد سهوبه، اللي هو كان من الرائدين بالمنظمين للاعتصام اللافت اللي صار قدام البلدية الأسبوع الماضي، وأيضا هو كمان صيدلي فعنده أيضا نظرة طبية عن الموضوع. فحنناقش كل القضايا. بدي أتشكر واتساب ميديا على طول إتاحتهم الفرصة لنا نطلع ونطلع عليكم، وأيضا بتشكر كل السبونسرز، كل من مانجوز، تهامس، ليمو اكسبرس، بلاجيو، ومالتي ستيشن ميديا، وآي بي لايتنج اند سبلايز. بتشكركم جميعا. Thank you so much for your trust. We're going to start, guys, again, this is a very important topic. So I'm going to jump in between Arabic and English, just so I can translate. أنا حضرني أحكي عربي إنجليزي حتى نترجم قبل ما فينا. دكتور محمد كمان رح يحكي عربي قبل ما فيه لحتى كمان نخلي الموضوع balanced، يعني في توازن. وحسين أخونا حسين حيطلع معنا كل 10 دقائق ربع ساعة لحتى أيضا يطلعنا على الأسئلة والكومنتس. Hussein is going to join us every 10-15 minutes from his camera just to loop us in with regards to the questions and comments on Facebook. Just want to let you guys know about that. So we're going to get started.
All right.
So guys, this is Lizlie. I was saying in the intro that this topic has generated a great deal of controversy and a lot of questions about the marijuana. But before we get into where we're at now, we got to look at the past a little bit. And specifically, we're talking about the 2008 Michigan marijuana program, which was, was passed statewide. And from my understanding, and this is what we want to clarify for the viewers, Doc and Lizlie, City Councilwoman Lizlie, that this one, the City Council does not have much of influence on it. So can we just briefly, whoever want to give us a brief idea about what is the 2008 Michigan marijuana program?
Well, I'll jump in and start, and then Mo, if you want to enhance what I say, because I think you probably have more familiarity from a medical perspective. But in 2008, Michigan voters voted to approve medical marijuana growth and distribution here in the state. And we have to remember that that's what we're talking about, medical marijuana. This is marijuana that the patients have cards. They have a doctor that certifies that they have a medical condition that they depend on marijuana as part of their treatment to keep them comfortable and to help them, whether it's on a regular daily basis or just kind of as needed. People who have cancer, people who suffer from seizures, this can be a life-changing supplement to their medical care. And so in 2008, Michigan voters, enough people out there were aware of the medical benefits of marijuana, and it passed here in Michigan. But now what we're seeing is that legislation at the state level says that in every city there has to be provisions made for people to grow marijuana, medical caregivers, to grow marijuana for up to 5 of their patients. So those are licensed caregivers, and their patients also have licenses to, and they can grow up to 12 plants per patient. The caregivers can grow up to 12 plants per patient. And so at the point that we are now, Dearborn has to come up with a way to let those medical marijuana caregivers either grow it in their homes, which is what's happening right now, or get it out of the homes and provide a place that legally they can grow it within our city. It's not up to us to say yes or no. We have to say yes, but it's how we say yes and make space available for those caregivers.
Okay, sure. Doc, just before you chip in, just want to translate to Arabic. So مشاهدينا عم تقول عضو مجلس البلدي ليزلي هيريك انه انا كنت سالتها انه قبل ما نحكي عن الواقع الحالي هلا، يعني ليش صرنا لهون وشو عنا هلا هون. صار شغله بال 2008 لما سكان الولايه بميشيغان صوتوا على انه بيقبلوا انه تستعمل الماريجوانا للاستعمال الطبي. فسالتها انه شو اللي صار، فعم تشرح هي وتقول انه ب 2008 تم هذا التصويت، هذا بيعطي الناس الحق انهم يزرعوا ماريجوانا، بكل مدينه بحق يزرعوا ماريجوانا، كل كير جيفر بيقدر يعطي ل5 وكل شخص 12 شتله، وهودي الشتلات يستعملوا حصريا فقط للاستعمال الطبي، ومعهم طبعا رخص ومعهم ايضا البطاقات اللي بتبين ذلك. ذاك بالنسبه للموضوع شو بتحب تضيف على الموضوع؟
Yeah. So let me first start in English and I'll do what I can in Arabic, but so Lizzie can understand. Yeah. So I do agree that the city of Dearborn has to do something to accommodate the state requirements. But I want to go back a little bit into the intention of the 2008 law. I think it was more than just the population. Enough population in Michigan agreed to or voted to allow patients who deserve marijuana to treat their own condition. There was other provisions such as decriminalizing. A huge part of the legal system where many people were being thrown in jail for a couple of ounces of marijuana. I think that was a big push, and that's, I think, in my opinion, based on when I reviewed, the majority of the population voted for it mainly to decriminalize the activity. However, it was all lumped in, like any law, lumped in with this, and it's okay that took place. But based on however, when you look at the effect of that, the effect of the law and what it has done to various communities, and what the law did not envision, what the lawmakers did not envision. They didn't envision that there's going to be various problems like anything. I'm a pharmacist by trade, and I can tell you that both the Board of Pharmacy and the DEA, they will write 200-300 pages of law. However, there are several loopholes that both physicians and many other practitioners find for their own purpose. So, based on my analysis and analysis of many other people, since 2008, while the law was intended to help patients, to allow them to grow 12 plants so they can self-treat, the loophole is that the majority of the grow, and there's independent studies out there, show greater than 70% is being sold to the black market. So the city of Dearborn should be aware that while yes they have to satisfy the state requirement, there should be an in-depth analysis of the need and in-depth analysis of the communities and how it's going to affect it. Because while like I said, while the law was meant to assist patients to allow them to and look how it was written, 12 plants in a household, they can go to your house in your basement, do what you got to do. Board up your basement, you reduce invest properly, grow 12 plants, trim them, make your thing, treat your cancer or treat the pain, increase, there are several indications. And I do agree as a pharmacist that when used properly, like any medication, like opiate, like Vicodin, actually, when used properly for the intended purpose, for the length of time, it does help. The issue that we're having right now as a society is that it's not being applied. For the majority, it's not like 10% of it. We're talking about hundreds of young people are finding physicians who are unethical, who would write them a card for $50. You can go online. You can go. When I was coming here, I went online. I said, "How to buy a medical marijuana card?" Several websites came up, $50. Not even a physician visit. Apply online, get your card. So that card allows you to go find a caregiver who's going to grow 12 plants for you. The caregivers are combining, their ability to do that into growing 72 plants for 5 patients. You see how that works? 12 patients. They find 5 patients, or they put 5 patients together to allow them to grow 72 plants. Now, like I said, the law was intended to assist patients, but the result of the law is not happening. The result is you have caregivers who have turned this into a business. And there's a demand in the market. So because there's a demand in the market, it's really lucrative. So there are several pockets throughout Dearborn where Business people are growing the product, using people's cards, labeling the building, so and so, as patient 1, patient 2, patient 3, patient 4, patient 5. If there was an in-depth analysis of each building, there's going to be several buildings, like I said, not based on Michigan study, greater than 70%, the patients are not receiving their product in their hand and using it. The caregivers are taking this product, sending it to the black market.
Excuse me, but are you saying that there are businesses right now that are storefronts operating in Dearborn? I don't believe that there are.
No, I'm not. No,
okay,
no,
that's what you made it sound like. Maybe in other places, but not
but I'm
here.
saying, but I'm saying.
He's talking in general.
I'm talking in general throughout the state,
yes.
where this is allowed.
For
example, I had a building. I had this on a personal experience. I had a building in Oak Park. And this building was as a good zoning, high power industrial. This is a personal experience. I had a high power building. I had purchased from this guy who was a retiring, cabinet maker, beautifully set. I purchased it from him with no intent to do anything with it, but to resell it because it was in a good zoning for another purpose. And then people came to me and they're throwing like a crazy number to lease it from me, and I didn't know the reason. I was like. The average for that area is $5,000 a month, and they were like, "Oh, we can pay you 15." I didn't understand why. Honestly, that was 2000, maybe 11.
Wow.
And then they said they're going to be using the building to store servers. So I had my attorney draft a lease based on that they were going to be storing servers. And at that time I was not into this, understanding pretty much. But anyway, let's just speed up the story quickly. I leased the building to them, protect myself, that they're going to be using, for that purpose. But a year later, the city sent me a nice big threatening letter saying they believe my building is being used to grow marijuana, and I should attend a city meeting immediately. So I jump in my car. Anyway, I go there, and I meet with them. They said it's more than likely that marijuana is being grown there, and they need access to the building. I had my attorney contact the tenant, and that's exactly what happened.
I see.
We had access to the building, but it just gives you exactly what happened. Once we inspected the building, 5 different areas were set up for each patient. But definitely this was an industrial. This was a 72 plants grow, and I'm afraid that that experience can be repeated throughout Dearborn.
Well, we're working for that to not happen here.
Yes.
That's why we need to put ordinances in place that we can enforce.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because right now, that's why I was asking if you think that that's happening in buildings right now.
It's not.
If it is, we're stopping it because they are not licensed, they don't have permits to do that, and the buildings aren't set up for that.
Yeah, that's correct.
By law, as you stated, any of the facilities that do receive a state license for this, they have to have no visibility into the building, so you can't see, for various reasons, but you can't see inside the building. There have to be filtration for the smell and things like that, and it's heavily regulated. And so we need to set those processes into place here in Dearborn, because right now the only legal place that it's happening is right next door. People might not realize that it's happening right next door or down the block, but it is. And they are doing it legally, as you said, up to 12 plants per patient. And if you yourself have a card as the homeowner, you can have 72 plants in your basement.
I think you can only have 12 in your house if you're one patient.
If you're a caregiver, you can be
up to 5 patients.
5 in the house.
You can have 5 patients within your own property.
But I believe but based on the state law, they have to be separated by a room. So each 12 plants have to be they have to have a wall-to-wall division with a locked door. So it's kind of difficult for me to understand that a basement and even in a 1,000 square feet ranch home, let's just be very specific. How can it's very difficult to divide it into 5 rooms separately locked, because the state law is very specific because they don't issue the medical marijuana cards and they don't issue the caregiver for a caregiver to qualify. If there's they must comply with that part.
Sure.
So it's not like they can just grow 72 plants in one area with no divisions. That's very and that's why I'm trying to understand currently. Has there been any assessment in Dearborn? And we have to get to the facts here, Leslie. Correct?
We'll get into this.
So one of the things that I wanted to understand from the city council is, have they studied how many homes are doing this? Did they have a number? Where are the homes? are they, they should be able to comply, to find. I don't know if they've done that or not. So can you let me know?
It is an important question. Leslie, before you answer,
I don't
please.
have that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I don't have that information because that's not. It's just not anything that's been given to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know our police department, and I think they get their, and you know the process better than I,
Sure.
Regarding the home, the caregivers who are going at home. They get a license from the state, so that's not regulated at the city level. So I think our property maintenance department has a list, but I don't have that information.
No problem.
But would you think this is an important? In order for the city council to, make proper ordinances or to even to come up to figure a way to solve the problem, wouldn't it be important to know where are those homes? If the city council is claiming or saying, or I'm going to agree with them, they're saying that they need to solve the problem. First, I need to explore where are they? How many are there? Is it 100? Is it 150? Is it 1,000? It'd be good to know, right? I mean, if I was a decision maker, I would want to know the deep detail of where the problem is. I don't want to solve a problem by not knowing, at least 99% of the information.
Sure.
So that's one of the points that I wanted to bring up today, is that I've attended the city council meetings, by Zoom to understand this issue. I haven't seen these details that would satisfy me as a homeowner and as an investor in Dearborn, as a community activist. And also as the rest of the people that are looking at us to assist them, they're asking those questions. So I'll let you go ahead.
Just before we continue, Leslie, in City Council.
I know he wants to jump into it.
Just to translate,
Sure.
and then we can go to Hussein to jump on the social media, and then we're gonna hop into a break and then come back.
Okay.
So مشاهدينا اللي كان الحديث عم بدور اخر 10 دقائق هو المين ايديا، الفكره الاساسيه منه. الدكتور سهوبه كان عم يحكي انه القانون تبع ستيت اوف ميشيغان، تبع ولايه ميشيغان، هو قانون صح، ولكن عم بيقول انه هذا القانون عم بتسوله شوائب كتير، اللي هو 70-80% من الاستعمال هو المفروض يكون طبي، وعم بيقول اذا استعمل طبي كما يجب مثل ما لازم يكون ما حيكون في اي اشكالات، ولكن عم بيقول انه هذا كله عم بيتسرب للسوق السوداء يلي عم بيؤدي لانه تنتشر وعم توقع بين ايدين ناس مش هن المقصودين، وهذا عم بيسبب كتير مشاكل. وكان عم يحكي انه كمان انه حتى لو واحد بيزرع بالبيت، القانون بيقول انه كل شتله من 12 بدها تكون عم تنزرع باوضه مختلفه، في حيطان بيناتهم ولا ما هناك. هلا ليزلي عم بتقول، سيتي كونسلومن عم بتقول انه بعدها بدير وبعد هذا الامر منبت في هذا الموضوع اللي احنا حنفوت فيه من بعد ما نوقف مع اسئلتكم وتعليقاتكم مشينا مع خينا حسين، نحكي عن الكير جيفر اكت وشو هي النظره تعود هلا بالبلديه اللي حتصير، ورح نفوت بالقسم الثاني بالنص الثاني من الحلقه عن هالمواضيع. خينا حسين إلك.
أكيد تحياتنا لك خضر، وتحياتنا لكل المتابعين والمشاهدين على قناة الأخبار، وأيضا تحية لضيوفنا الموجودين معنا بالاستوديو. هناك عدد كبير من الأسئلة اللي عم تنطرح أونلاين، رح نحاول قد ما فينا نجاوب على هذه الأسئلة بالوقت المسموح لنا. باسمة بتسلم عليكم، طلال بيقول كلا للمروانة، نو فور مروانة. رندا بتقول بدي يسعد مساكم، باسمة أيضا، وزينب بتقول good evening to all. حسين لديه عدد كبير من الأسئلة، بنحاول نسأل كم سؤال منهم لحسين. Hussein is asking about what happened in the last city council meeting in regards to that ordinance. Lesley, if we can answer that question, or we can give an update. I know Khodr, probably you have that part in your
that was next discussion. Yes.
Also, someone is asking, as a councilwoman, are you aware of the facilities that are planting marijuana near residential areas in Dearborn? He mentioned a specific area. I'll give you the details of that area. Probably in the break. Just because we don't know if that's true or not, you guys can check. Somebody is asking, are you with or against planting marijuana in Dearborn? That question is for you guys. Hassan is saying good evening. Mustafa كمان عم بيقول شغلة عادية. Also, somebody is asking, is the city allowed by state law to opt out from allowing these facilities to open up in Dearborn? Also, another question is, can the city cap the number of caregivers in the city and not keep it open-ended? Can you guys cap the number of how many facilities are allowed to open? وايضا هناك عدد اخر من الاسئله والتعليقات. اكيد نحن كل شوي رح نرجع لكم مشاهدينا لناخذ قد ما فينا تعليقات واسئله منكم، فاستمروا في كتابه تعليقاتكم وما تنسوا تعملوا شير لهذا الفيديو لحتى اكثر عالم تستفيد من المعلومات المقدمه في تلك الحلقه. بنعود لك اخينا خضر.
استاذ حسين، ثانك يو، شكرا كثير لك. مشاهدينا بليز اي سؤال اي تعليق اطرحوه بالمربع التعليقات الكومنت بوكس، ونحن هلا حنجاوب على اسئله. وحنبلش مع السيتي كونسلومان ليزلي. So the first question was, can you please update us what happened in the last city council meeting with regard to this particular point?
What we did was we have actually 4 ordinances before us that all combined regulate what medical marijuana facilities, where they would be allowed, and some of the regulations here in Dearborn if they're to open up here. And based on public feedback and questions that we continue to receive, just like the one that you just posed, Mo, we decided that we need to do further study. So we tabled the ordinances that were before us. We did not vote on them. And we said we need to do at least one more study session. We're gathering information of what we will cover in that next study session. And we have a 90-day moratorium so that no facilities in businesses for medical marijuana growth are allowed to open in Dearborn. Right now there are 4 that have licenses from the state, or they're in the application process at some point. And that's all been stopped. They've been told that until City Council does vote for 90 days, they cannot do anything more.
I think the 4 that are already in process, the building department, based on what I know, I attended the last city council meeting. The 4 that are already in process, they cannot stop them. They'd have to proceed and give them their building permit.
It depends at what point in the process they are.
Yeah, based on what I know,
but they're not taking any more
Yes,
applications.
exactly. Yeah.
But they cannot, but they cannot, start working and not until like the city council decides what's going to happen after 90 days.
Right.
So now is the time for you guys to review. So
Right.
between now and 3 months, just so the people can know and better understand. So between now and 3 months, again, the city council will be meeting and reviewing and pretty much studying what are the possibilities, and then in 90 days you guys gonna vote on them, or what is the deal?
90 days we decide whether we'll go forward with a vote, or I don't know if we're allowed legally to do a second moratorium to give us more time to study it. But we do have to take the issue up, obviously, within 90 days to figure out what happens next.
Go ahead.
And I was just going to remind everybody, as you know, the public is welcome at all of our meetings, our regular council meetings, the committee of the whole meeting, which is the meeting before the council meeting, the Thursday before, the study sessions that we hold. The public is always welcome. And it's even easier now that we're on Zoom.
Yeah.
Just this week, we extended the amount of time that we'll be meeting via Zoom. So we'll be doing that probably until, by legally, we could do it till the end of May.
Yes.
On Zoom. So we'll see. But it facilitates easier participation from the public, that you can log in from home and watch the proceedings or ask questions in the chat. So we value that feedback because that does help us make decisions and figure out how we're going to proceed.
Sure. Before we proceed with you, City Councilwoman and Doc, I just want to translate, and then we're going to head to a break. And then after that break, we're going to dive back into the rest of the questions and our discussion. So مش عم تقول عضو مجلس البلدي إنه اللي صار بالاجتماع الماضي هن عم يدرسوا 4 مسودات مشاريع أو قوانين تصير بالمدينة هون، الأوردنانسز. نظرا للضغط اللي حصل جزء منه أكيد، نظرا تتاح الفرصة للمجلس وأعضائه إنه يدرسوا الموضوع أكثر مليا ويشوفوا شو فيهم يعملوا. فهلا من هون ل3 أشهر يعني في 4 يعني مؤسسات هي بالابلكيشن بروسس، يعني في منهم عم بيقدموا لحتى يفتحوا هودي الفاسيلتيز بديربورن حتى يشتغلوا بالميديكال ماريجوانا، في منهم باول الطريق، منهم بنصه، منهم باخره مثلا. فكل واحد حسب وين هو بالابلكيشن بروسس. ففي منهم اعطوهم الاذن، ولكن هلا ما فيهم يعملوا شيء ل3 أشهر، وبعد 3 أشهر بعد 90 يوم بده يرجع يجتمع المجلس وبده يقرر البت بهذا الموضوع. مشاهدينا خليكم معنا، رح نوقف بس مع بريك سريع جدا وبنرجع لكم.
That's good. We're on break.
مالتي ميديا ستيشن، متجرك الوحيد لجميع خدمات الوسائط الإعلامية المتعددة من ويب، صوت، صورة وفيديو. نوفر خدمة التسويق الرقمي وإدارة صفحات التواصل الاجتماعي للشركات والمحلات الصغيرة والمتوسطة. لدينا فريق عمل مختص بتصوير حفلات الزفاف والمناسبات. لمزيد من المعلومات الاتصال على 734-315-0718 أو زيارة موقعنا الإلكتروني themultimediastation.com.
IB Lighting Supplies متجرك الأول إن كنت تبحث عن إضاءة مميزة للمباني السكنية والتجارية، بالإضافة إلى الثريات الفاخرة المصنوعة من الكريستال بتصاميم عصرية وأسعار مدروسة. IB Lighting Supplies بإدارة عماد بوسي. زورونا الآن. هاتف 313-438-6516. العنوان 22325 Westbourne Avenue, Dearborn Heights.
اهلا وسهلا فيكم مرة ثانية مشاهدينا بحلقة جديدة من برنامجكم شؤون الناس Public Affairs. موضوع جدا مهم، عم نحكي عن استعمال الماريجوانا الطبية وشو مستقبلها بمدينة ديربورن من ناحية زراعتها، وشو حيقول المجلس التربوي، عفوا المجلس البلدي مش مجلس التربوي. متعودين نحكي كثير عن المدارس عن السكول بورد. I said the school board instead of the city council.
Two different bodies.
I know.
Yeah, very different.
So مع كل من City Councilwoman Lizli, هيريك and pharmacist Dr. محمد سهوبه. I want to thank the sponsors again of the show: Mangoes, Tahamas, Limo Express, Village Hall, Multi-Station Media, and IB Lighting and Supplies. بتشكركم مشاهدينا. بليز اي سؤال اي تعليق كمان اطرحوه، ونحن رح ناخده قد ما فينا حسب الوقت قديش بيتاح لنا، بس بليز طرحوا الاسئله. So Lizli, we're gonna pick up with you and I'm gonna come back to you, Doc.
Sure, of course.
So there was a question: can the city decide whether to opt in or out, or is that up to the voters?
In this case, the city cannot opt out. We have to have some sort of legal provision for medical marijuana caregivers to grow and provide marijuana to their patients.
Please?
Pardon me?
Can you just talk about the Caregivers Act that is within the 2008 Michigan marijuana program?
Could I talk about it?
Yeah, like can you just give us like a brief idea, like what is a caregiver, like what do they mean by caregiver? Just to give out patients.
They're licensed, and actually Mo can probably elaborate more on that because of his the background in working with patients and medical.
So basically, the intention of the law, and I think we covered it a couple more times.
Just like the caregiver.
So a caregiver is just it's an individual that is that they apply to the state. They get vetted out. They get vetted that they're supposedly a good, ethical, moral. So almost like I always call them like a unlicensed pharmacist. Because they do have to have no criminal record, no history of. So they get vetted out, but it's not a. It's not a very difficult process, but anyway, they apply to the state. They get vetted out that they're a caregiver that has knowledge of how to grow a marijuana plant. Growing a marijuana plant is not as easy as growing a tomato. There's a process. There's several species. There's several strains. There's some knowledge in the area, so the caregivers are given that permit that they can grow for. The one caregiver can grow for 5 patients. Each patient is allowed to have 12 plants.
Okay.
So that's where the number 72, the magic number. 5 times 12, 72, 5 patients each. And
plus himself.
If they are a patient. But they cannot exceed 72. So they can be a 4 plus 1 or 5, so that's really the intention of the caregiver was proposed in the law, or to assist patients, to teach them how to grow for themselves, because like I said, growing a marijuana plant isn't as simple as growing a tomato. There's
not that easy.
It's not that simple, and you need lighting. You know, you're in Michigan. You know, you have majority of the time it has to be going indoors. So that's really kind of like, you know, that's no city can opt out. No city in Michigan can opt out. It's a patient right. The patient has a right to grow 12 plants inside his house. A caregiver can travel between five houses. A caregiver can take care of 5 patients, each one in their own house, having 12 plants, and this is actually what's happening in most cities. Most cities that did not opt into that did not opt into the other, you know, medical marijuana and the recreational. Caregivers, you know, have patients in different homes, and they go to each home. They assist the patient in the feeding the plant, growing the plant, cutting it, trimming it, lighting it, what have you. You know, that's the process of you know, of growing it and making you know, get it to a successful you know, product where the patient can basically do what they have to do, I guess, you know, with using it properly.
You know, I'd like to
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you earlier, by the way. I was just wanted to explain to people like the caregiver. It's a kind of cool.
And that's fine, because this is a enlightening conversation.
Yes, sure.
Because I think that you bring up a good point that a lot of people are concerned that it's going to increase traffic to wherever, whether it's at somebody's home that they're growing it for others, or if it's at a place of business, wherever that might be. But it's not a drive up and buy your marijuana.
No.
They have to deliver it to the patient, that specific patient that they are growing the marijuana for.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's you know, like I said, you know, like I said earlier, you know, in all times, and I believe that Michigan rushed into this based on what I know about, you know, other states. Michigan voters wanted this. The state had only like about a year to get the law out. They created an agency, they sped through, and since then they have been trying to correct the law by having several amendments to the law and so on. But as it is right now in Dearborn or many other Dearborn Heights or Bloomfield or Birmingham, patients have the right to grow in their own home. The thing that I want to basically dive into with Lesley is that we have 90 days as a community, you know, and as you know, voters and as residents and as investors, and you know, as investors not in the business of marijuana, but investors. What I mean by myself, I have several properties in Dearborn, and you know, I would like to protect my investment, just like anybody else. I like to protect, you know, my real estate properties, whether there's, you know, single-family homes or commercial buildings. I would hate through the property values, my property values, and many other people's property values.
So you're portraying that by allowing this in the city will diminish, or
well, you know,
will lead to decline.
Yeah, my you know. So let's just be honest with each other from, you know, and honest in our conversation. You know, when it comes to basically the idea of, you know, of allowing you know, several caregivers to combine into one major building, it's almost like the opting in, you know. I don't know if you want to cover that part, without opting in. So the cities were given a choice to opt in or out, to allow basically industrial grow facilities, which you know, by state law, you know, can grow 500 trees. 1,000 trees or 1,500 trees based on what's going to license you know, get your facility to. Dearborn did not opt in; it's opted out. So was 80% of municipalities, as you know, throughout the state of Michigan, and there's a huge correlation. And I think you would agree with me on the correlation. The majority of the cities that opted in to allow industrial type grow, 500 to 1,500 trees, are cities who are desperate for tax base.
What do you think, Lesley?
That's, I mean, that we can't ignore, and we know that. And they know that they need a tax base, but in return, they're willing to give up many things, depreciating the home values. In my opinion, the cities that they opted in, they already have depreciated home values, and I believe maybe the residents were not as engaging, maybe, but the cities that opted in includes Flint, Detroit, Saginaw, Inkster. So, you know, there's nothing to cover up here. You know, the home values in those cities are already depreciated. You know, they're socially, economically challenged areas.
Sure.
Now, when you look at the rest of the communities that didn't opt in, voters there, as well as the city administration and council members in those cities, understand the implication of having major grow facilities in nearby homes. And what I'd like to see in Dearborn is a very detailed study of understanding that by allowing several caregivers to combine into one building, you are opting in without opting in, if you know what I mean by that point.
Okay, we're going to continue, Doc, just to give our city councilwoman a chance to answer. So Mo is saying that from his standpoint, and we're going to get in a little bit about, the Dearborn, Dearborn residents, the majority voted against it in 2018.
They voted against recreational marijuana.
Yes,
they didn't vote. Yes. They voted, the state voted on both those recreational and medical in the past.
Exactly.
And it was a statewide.
Exactly. And that we said earlier that the city council does not have much to do with it, actually.
Right.
But, Mo is saying that, if this happened in Dearborn, especially, as he said now, without a clear study and analysis and the very strict regulations, things are going to collapse. Real estate, values. I mean, what's your take on? What is the city's also, besides your take on this, as a city councilwoman for the past 4 years, what is it that the city also is trying to envision? What is the city is basing on? Are you guys projecting profit? Are you guys projecting prosperity?
Well, what we're trying to do as the city council right now is to put all the medical marijuana grow facilities as far as possible from the homes of residents, because that's the feedback that we've received. They don't want it next door. They don't want it within 150 feet, which is what our current ordinance allows, is within 150 feet.
Trying to push it for 300 or 1,000.
Yeah, and so we're looking at the best way to serve what our residents are asking for, and to not put them all in one neighborhood, in one part of the city, so that, nobody is carrying the burden of having medical marijuana facilities all in their area of the city. We're trying to, so they're not concentrated in one area, but we're trying to meet the state requirement. And so that's where we've discussed, how can we do that? So the question was asked, can we cap the number of facilities that we allow here in Dearborn? We can't cap it by just throwing out a number. The way that we regulate how many facilities open here are through these ordinances.
Okay.
How far apart are they from each other? How far are they from residential areas? And the farther apart they are from residential area, we're putting them in, the current ordinances that we're examining right now is in industrial properties. And the number of industrial properties that are eligible where these facilities could open if they purchased or leased. There are fewer properties if you make a wider buffer between them and homes. So if you have a 1,000-foot buffer between one of these buildings and homes, there aren't that many properties in Dearborn that are that large for 1,000 feet. I mean, 300 feet, which is what we're looking at right now, the proposal that's before us right now, 300 feet is a football field, from what, end post to goalpost to goalpost. And so, you're talking about 300 feet between one of these facilities and another one of these facilities, as well as 300 feet between one of these facilities and residential homes or schools or churches.
So 300 feet between each facility.
Correct.
And then 300 feet between each facility and the residential zone.
Correct. Okay. And so by doing 300 feet, there are more eligible properties that might be purchased or leased for this purpose, spread out more across the city than if you do 1,000 feet, where all of those properties are pretty much concentrated. There are a few isolated, but concentrated in the south end of Dearborn. And we don't want to put that burden on an area that already is so polluted and industrialized, and the truck traffic, and they already have the trains.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I
have some points about that.
And the air pollution. So there's already so much lower quality of life when it comes to the environment there.
Punish them more.
That we want to try and find a way to spread it across the city.
Exactly. Before we continue, Lesley and Doctor, let me translate a little bit.
Okay.
Sorry.
Don't you speak Arabic? He speaks Arabic.
About 3 words. شكرا.
There you go.
عضو مجلس بلدي ليزلي عم بتقول انه انا سالتها انه المدينه اليوم عشان بتطلع، يعني اليوم دكتور محمد عم بيقول انه يعني اليوم يعني هذا الشيء بديربورن بالاخص انه قراب من المنازل والى من هنالك، وعم بقول انه كمان اذا هذه القصه وضعت صارت بديربورن بلا اجراءات حازمه وصارمه رح تتفلت الامور. ودكتور محمد شايف انه يعني الاسعار البيوت راح تنزل، مش حنضلنا نحافظ على نفس جودة العيش. وهو عطى امثله انه كثير مدن حوالينا وافقوا عندهم الناس انه هيدا، ولكن عم نشوف عندنا المقابل شو النتائج اللي عم بتصير من هبوط عندهم بالاقتصاد، بالانتاجيه وبنوعيه وجوده الحياه. فالعضو مجلس البلدي عم بتقول انه هلا البلديه حاليا المحطوط، هي البروبوزل المحطوطه انه تكون الابعاد 150 قدم، وهلا هو عم بيحاولوا يفتشوا على محل يكون في 300 قدم. يعني اذا فرضا بعد 90 يوم صوتوا المجلس البلدي انه اوكي بدنا نسمح بهذا الشيء، بده يكون بين كل فاسيلتي وفاسيلتي 300 فيت بعيد، وايضا بين كل فاسيلتي والمراكز اكتظاظ السكان يعني المنازل السكانيه كمان يكون في مسافه 300 فيت بيناتهم لحتى نضمن. هلا للاسف الشديد اذا هذا الشيء بده يصير، ان كان 1000 فيت يعني اذا كان 1000 قدم ولا 300 قدم، هو جنوب الساوث اند بالمدينه للاسف اللي هو اوريدي عم يتعرض لتلوث بالهواء، التراكس يعني عندهم يعني موجهون تحيه كبيره بالمناسبه، عندهم ما يكفيهم من مشاكل ومن تلوث ومن جوده بالحياه مش كل هالقد. فعم نحاول كمان نحن نحكي عن هذا الموضوع لحتى نشجع على اذا حيصير شيء انه كل اطراف المدينه تتحمل جزء من المسؤوليه، ما بيسوى وما بيصير جزء واحد او ميله واحده من المدينه تتحمل كل هذه الاعباء. Before I continue with you guys, I just want to go to Hussein to see what's going on Facebook. Time flies really fast with you guys. I mean, I'm telling you. I know. So Hussein, لك حبيبي.
شكرا لك خضر. اكيد نعود لكم مشاهدينا لحتى ناخذ اسئلتكم، وبنعتذر شوي يمكن عم نطول لناخذ الاسئله اليوم لانه هناك كلام كثير. اكيد حلقه واحده فيما يتعلق بهذا الموضوع مش رح تعطي حقه للموضوع طبعا. طابق بغايه الاهميه، متشعب، عم تحكوا عن قوانين، عم تحكوا عن ولايه ومدينه واراء ومواطنين. اكيد نحن رايكم انتم كمان بيهمنا. مهدي بيقول great show، وبيقول the city should initiate such conversation like this one with the residents so they can get their input. ترستي عادل معزب اكيد بصفته الخاصه الاستاذ عادل معزب بيقول why doesn't the city start a new zoning and use the empty buildings on Greenfield and Southfield area. Leslie, I don't know if you're writing those notes. I'm reading some questions. I'm not sure if you taking some notes from people. Yeah, Adil asked why doesn't the city start a new zoning and use the empty buildings on Greenfield and Southfield area. Hassan was asking us to ask his question, which is you guys just answered his question. انتصار عم تقول المخدرات كارثة. رياسة عم تقول if the city council did a study to what area of the city is marijuana most grown and can they choose to allow the most industrial facilities to be placed in that area. سلوان عم بيقول لا يوجد بيت للأجار والأسعار نار وأسعار البيوت صارت نار ولا يوجد عمال للعمل، كل هذا من وراء المروانة. So Selwan in English, in Arabic, he said something in Arabic which is basically he's saying we cannot find a house for rent, either a house to buy. The prices are very high and all of that because of marijuana. Everyone is renting houses and buying houses so they can plant and grow marijuana in them. So that's another input from. There's so many questions, so many comments. Samia is saying, I think the resident should have more say in it, especially that it will impact our kids and home values. This is some of the questions, some of the comments we have أكيد على السوشيال ميديا. أكيد نرجع لك أستاذ خضر، بإمكانكم أنتم مشاهدينا تشاركوا بهيدي المحادثة والمناظرة اليوم من خلال تعليقاتكم وأسئلتكم، وأيضا من خلال تعملوا شير لهذا الفيديو. عودة لك خضر.
حسين ثانك يو. مشاهدينا بضيف صوتي على صوت خلينا حسين انه بليز اي تعليق اي سؤال اطرحوه. هذا البرنامج مفتوح لحتى نوصل صوتكم، لحتى نجيب المختصين ونساعد ايضا بوصل صوتكم وكلمتكم للسلطات وعلى صناع القرار ان كان بالمدينه وحتى على مستوى الولايه وين ما كان. نوعدكم نعمل جهدنا على طول لحتى وصلوا. سو داك نرجع لك. بس ليزلي عادل موزب ask a question that is why the city does not start new zoning and why don't you guys use the empty building on Greenfield and Southfield?
I don't know what the empty building at Greenfield and Southfield.
I think there's several, maybe there are more. No, there's several buildings.
He's referring to, but I don't know how we would create a new zone. Sorry, I'm not an expert in zoning and creating new zones. I know the zones that we have to work with right now and that we've been expanding. We were talking about, we have industrial A, B, and C, and originally the city's planning department was recommending to council that we just look at like industrial A. I can't remember exactly which of the industrial, but we expanded it so that there'd be more potential properties, again, spread out across the city where these businesses could be established so that they're not all concentrated in the South End. We're very, we listen. We're listening to the comments and the concerns of the people.
And that is very important. And just let me add something, Lesley, to what you're saying is, I know that people are upset because they are thinking that this is either being done on purpose or not on purpose. But I just want to highlight one thing, Dr. Mo and City Councilwoman Lesley, that one of the City Council members did say the other meeting that it's not intentional and they are just looking for enough space. Now, I'm just relating what I read on the newspaper and what I heard as well throughout these meetings is that unfortunately, to find such spacious areas, that's going to be either in the South End or the East End, and it's not much available in the West End. What's your take on that?
Well, the way that we've been studying this is that the city, they've divided into 9 different communities, they're calling it. Okay. And the community areas that have the most industrial properties that are large enough, as you're saying, that would have a buffer between at this point we're saying 300 feet between those buildings and the residential areas, are the areas, the Salina area, and the Fordson East area, which is kind of the northeast area of the city. And so that's where our handy dandy color maps come in to kind of look at where these areas are divided. But still, whether it's a 300-foot buffer or 500-foot buffer or 1,000-foot, more of the industrial areas are already on the east side of the city, and in the Salina area. So our city planner has spent a lot of time trying to figure out how do we make it more equitable to spread these across the city. In addition to just the buffer size, it was a formula that I have a hard time explaining, but it was taking all the industrial properties across the whole city and then dividing by 9 because there were 9 regions, and then if we only allow a certain percentage of all those properties to be used for such a business, how does it make it more equitable? And the formula that they used made it so that fewer of those available properties would be eligible in those areas, if you follow all that. And it took me a while. I had to hear it several times to understand. And the East, you mean? So, when we look at how many parcels are in each of these 9 zones of the city, and again, most of those are on the east side, but the Fordson East, instead of having 16 available properties using this formula, there were 15 available properties.
So they only took out 1.
In the Fordson East area. In the Salina area, the formula that was used, it reduced it from 28 eligible properties to 15, making it more on par with, not equal to, but more on par with the other areas where there are a lot of industrial properties. The Springwells area by 94 and Rotunda in that area has 13 eligible properties. Okay. And then the West Business, like on the far west side of the city, the Trowbridge, like right at the border of the city, Michigan Avenue and Gully, there are 6 eligible properties on that end of the city. The Princeton Carlisle area in kind of Midwest Dearborn, there's 4 eligible properties. For that part. Yeah, and so, and then there are a couple areas of the city that there just isn't industrial at all, and so no matter how we did a formula, they're not going to make them.
Sure. Just let me translate.
And I want to jump to this because I wanted to talk about.
I'll give you
from a resident's perspective and from.
Just let me translate, just because it's very important. عضو مجلس البلدي عم بتقول انه في الخريطه بتبين في 9 قطاعات مقسمه المدينه ل9 قطاعات، عم بتقول انه عم بيحاولوا انه يخففوا بجنوب المدينه بالساوث اند وبشرق المدينه، عم بيحاولوا يخففوا يعني مثلا فورتسون ايست خففوا من 16 مبنى مخول انه يحضن هيك شغلات ل 15، وبالساوث اند خفضوا من 28 ل 15، وحكت ايضا كمان عن بعض القطاعات الثانيه بغرب المدينه، ولكن طبعا ارقام اقل، يعني عم نحكي 5 و6 سب جالي و6 بالميد ويست بغرب مدينه ديربورن. فهذا كله بيرجع مثل ما كنا عم نحكي بالاول انه المسافه بدها تكون موجوده. هلا حاليا هي 150 قدم، بدها تكون هلا عم يشتغلوا على 300 يعني. فبدنا نشوف شو هن عم بيحاولوا. ليزلي قالت انه هن عم يسمعوا لتعليقاتكم، عم يسمعوا لاصواتكم، عم بيحاولوا قد ما فيهم انه يعني يعملوا توزيع عادل على كل الاقسام بالمدينه. وانا سبق سالتها كمان، قلت انه احد الاعضاء الثاني عم بيقول هذا الشيء مش عن قصد عم ينعمل، هذا الموضوع عم ينعمل حسب انه شو عم بيشوفوا وين فين يقدروا يعملوها. Doc, before you chip in, I just want to ask you though. I mean, you guys, did that demonstration, right?
Yes, sir.
Last week. So, I mean, what are the possibilities here? So let's say if the council vote on in 90 days, okay, we're gonna proceed. You know, let's say for example, I'm just putting a scenario here. And and just a scenario, nothing more, nothing less.
Of course, yeah.
So let's say they vote, okay, we're gonna go with these 9 districts. We decreased 28 to 15 in the south end, and 16 to 15 in the fourth and east, and so forth in the Midwest and the west side of the city.
Got it.
So what is it that?
So let me just jump right in.
What is it that they're looking for? Like, what is it that is scaring you?
The reason for the protest was, in my opinion, and the opinion of many other people, was to stop to step back and stop what would have been, in my opinion,
so adding pressure,
a disastrous plan for one part of the communities rather than the rest. In my opinion,
but don't you see?
Let me just finish, please.
Yeah, sure.
Let me just finish, please. This is well thought out. This is not like so. I understand the 1,000 feet, 300 feet. Trust me, I have an answer for all that. Okay. In my opinion, the city council is ill-educated about this subject. I can tell you the truth. In my opinion, the city law department has done a very poor job in educating the city council members. It is their duty of the 3 sitting, and I'm sorry to be hard on them, but you have 3 lawyers that are representing the city of Dearborn.
Okay.
You mean to tell me you cannot find the time to conduct proper research, to understand the details of the law, to understand the details of the impact of the communities, to educate both the city council members, all the city council members, and the planning commission, so they can come up with a very good proper solution. It is not my job to tell you that there's a problem. It is the job. People are being paid for what they do. Now to just come up and throw this on a planning commission, tell them to come up with some kind of ordinance or some kind of zone, some kind of buffer zone, and then to say, oh, it is not going to work. Let's just make a decision. That will hurt, a certain population within the city of Dearborn. Let's look at the map, and I don't know if the viewers can see it. This is what Lesley is speaking about, and she would agree with me. She gave me this document. And I'm not taking major credit for the protest, but I think that was a very good step to make sure the city council members didn't just do one more reading and voted on this. Because as it's proposed, look at the east side of Dearborn, look at the Salina district, look at the Spring Wells, look at the 4th and West, look at the 4th and East. With the law being passed that way, you're going to impact that city population. They will have 90% of the approved zoning with a 300 buffer zone in industrial property. That would have happened. Is it fair that the east side of Dearborn, the 4 districts here, have to deal with the issues that takes place when you're sitting, in your backyard, drinking coffee or making a barbecue? Do you want to smell marijuana grow out of a facility? Do you want to worry about everything else that happens? No, you don't. So, while I understand there's no solution that fits all, there was a very poor job by all those in charge to deliver a well-studied, program to make sure it's across, it satisfies the state law, which I agree with. You need to satisfy the state law. But to say, all right, this is the only solution you got to deal with it. Here's the 4 districts out of 9 that will eventually have 90% of the facilities. To me, as a concerned individual, as a taxpayer and an investor in the city, this is not. That's why the 90-day moratorium And I hope it's not, let's just wait 90 days and come up with, 10 days before, let's just come up with another, a hurry-up decision. I would like to see, this is such, in my opinion, this is such an important topic. That's why I made myself available today, because I rather don't really just come to any meeting, because I feel, I represent many other people. We as a community members feel very strongly that this is a decision that will impact the lives of many people, the youth, the community, every homeowner, everyone that's trying to do anything in Dearborn. This will impact them. You already heard people saying, they can't find, anyway, I don't want to go into that detail, but my point is, the way this sits, even without someone with, minimum information. If you tell them, this is what I'm trying to do. I have 9 districts. The population of Dearborn is spread out throughout the city, but here's going to be 90% of the areas that will have to deal with this. So the idea for me, if I was, again, I'm not looking for any job, but if I was sitting anywhere doing any planning commission work, if the industrial zoning with 300 feet doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Then we have to find something else. We have to open up different zoning. If we only have, of course, we have several zoning, allocations, retail, business, general. I'm familiar with all that. If it doesn't work, then why present it? If it doesn't work, why have it as an option? So I'm recommending that the city council or whoever in charge, they should invite people who have knowledge, who have in-depth knowledge. Did
you meet with the city council president, for example, or with any official in the city? Did you guys propose any alternative? Any ideas, any thoughts?
No. 2 weeks before the vote was supposed to happen, several concerned residents from the south of Dearborn mainly reached out to me and said, do you know what's going on? This is being proposed. And I was kind of blindsided, because I thought, the city would do, the city knows how important this is. I know a couple of other city council members very well, and they know how I feel about things being done, in a hurry-up, in a hurry-up manner. And I was really blindsided when I understood that what's being proposed is 300 feet from, from homes, and it's going to be industrial zoning. And then I was kind of presented with that information. After an hour of looking at it, I was shocked about what's going to be presented on Tuesday. That it's going to be a reading, and so. And I understand, people are saying 300. If you do 300 feet, you're going to spread it here and there. But if you do 1,000, it's going to be major on day one. But neither solution works. When neither, okay and not so good works, you got to find the great, and that's what I'm looking for. And I know it can happen. If this is such an important topic for everybody in Dearborn.
Sure.
Specifically people who are going to be affected, who live in the Fortson East, Fortson West, Spring Grove, and Salina district. They know if this passes, they're going to have to deal with it. Why should they? Why only those districts? Will have to deal with having. With having 300, with having several buildings, within 300 feet of them, having this, and it's not going to be 12 plants in a house. Now you're talking about an industrial building who possibly can be 50,000 square feet, correct? Mm-hmm. And at that time, the seller or the leaser, they would have all the incentive to allow 5-10 caregivers. So it's like, let's say take 10 givers.
But right now we're saying that it's limited by 300 feet between the caregivers, even under one roof. So that limits the number of caregivers who can even open up a business.
Then you're not going to satisfy the state law. You're not going to find this. You guys are not going to satisfy the state law. See, however you play this, you say, well, 300 feet between each one now, between each giver. And then you say, we need to satisfy the state law. The state law says you need to find enough solutions to satisfy so many members, correct? Is that what we're...
We have not been given a number of how many we need to accommodate.
But based on a couple of city council members' comments, and I can specify the names if necessary, they cited that there are consultants in Lansing who have in-depth knowledge about this issue, that while the courts have not said there's an exact number of buildings per city population, that if you just say, all right, you have 2 buildings in Dearborn for 100,000 people, you'll be sued. And I know that. And as non-practicing lawyer, you know, I'm not a lawyer by any trade, but I can tell you that I know enough about the law that when you don't find, you know, when the state tells you you need to find a solution, but you find only for two buildings for 100,000 square feet, somebody's going to find a way to sue you.
So now for the future, I mean, what do you think?
But my you know, for the future.
So what are you guys going to do between now and 90 days?
What I like to see, this is such an important topic. Please, Lesley, I'm asking you as a city council member that, you know, you and the 6 other people, right? There's you and the 6 other members. This is.
I mean, certainly she's not alone.
Yeah, yes. No, this is of course. This is you know, this is an impactful decision, and I think that I don't remember the last time that people rallied around a subject like this one.
Well, I think part of that is because there is misunderstanding about a lot of it. Like, we're still getting questions this evening that indicate that people think we're talking about recreational marijuana.
No, that's true.
We're only talking about caregiver medical marijuana right now. So can't say that enough times, I think. And also, again, pointing out that, you know, there's not going to be traffic like you have at a pharmacy where you have people pulling up and just buying this. This is the only customer is the 5 customers of that caregiver, and they have to deliver it themselves to their patients. Their patients aren't going to be driving up at all hours of the day and night to pick things up. That's not how it works. Also, you mentioned, you know, the smells. The regulations and the filtration that will be on the commercial facilities, the industrial in industrial properties, is so much more highly regulated than if somebody's growing it in their own home. That if you have somebody next door who's growing it, which they could be doing right now, you're far more likely to have the smells and be bothered by the plants than in these facilities that, as you pointed out, have, you know, locked doors, no windows, high filtration, and separate space for each group of 12 plants for each one of the patients that the plants are being grown for. So it's not like it's going to be, you know, again, you know, a commercial business where there's traffic coming and going. And I think that that's also part of what people are not understanding clearly. You know, it's not going to impact their neighborhood in those ways.
So just let me translate that, Dr. Mo, if you don't mind, for what you said and then for what Lesley said briefly, and then before I give you guys the last remark. I know this is to be continued. I know that, you know, one episode is not going to be enough. You know, certainly we're not going to do it justice. You know, we're not going to, you know, do a, you know, I mean, able to talk about everything in 1 hour. But I'm happy that we had opened up this discussion. So let me translate and I'll get back to you guys. So مش هنقول دكتور مو إنه هذا القانون يعني هو عفوا.
I'll just hold this right here while you're talking.
No problem. عم بقول دكتور مو إنه هذا القانون يعني متشعب، وعم بيقول إنه كمان هذا شيء مش مقبول إنه جزء واحد من المدينة يتحمل حوالي 90% من أعباء زراعة وحضانة في سميها ميديكال ماريجوانا. وعم بيقول إنه يعني بيحب يشوف هون 90 يوم إنه المحاميين اللي بيمثلوا البلدية وأيضا مجلس البلدي إنه يصوت على اوردنس يكون مدروس ويكون يعني والا بلاها. يعني هذه هي بالمختصر انه لانه عم بيقول انه من الصعب جدا انك حتلاقي 300 فيت، ولكن عضو مجلس البلدي عم بتقول انه حتى هذا مش للريكريشنال ماريجوانا، هذا للميديكال ماريجوانا اي الماريجوانا الطبيه. وعم بتقول انه كمان الفلتريشن يعني التهوئه بهودي الفاسيلتي حيكون جدا منظم، انه في هناك اجراءات صارمه وحاسمه لحتى اذا واحد قاعد برا انه ما يشم بالطريقه اللي نحن عم نفكر فيها. وكمان ضافت انه ما حيكون في كتير عجقه، مش انه والله واحد جاي على صيدليه وعم بيجيب دواء ورايح. هيدي الماريجوانا الطبيه رح تنبعت من الفاسيلتي للبيشنتس، للناس المحتاجيتها فقط. يعني مش حيكون في هذا كله استنادا طبعا لدكتور مو والسيتي كونسلومان ليزلي. Final remarks. I know I'm sorry we're tight on time, and again this is not going to be enough, but we'll be more than happy to inshallah to flesh out and talk more and expand upon this as we get more details and as the image become clearer. Just a final remark, and whoever want to go ahead.
So I'll go ahead first because I want to continue the conversation about you know, and I'm a person of solution. I know, I understand the city administration, the city council has to make a decision soon. Otherwise, the problem you know, can linger on for many months. But what's necessary is an in-depth analysis. I think step one, there needs to be an assessment of where the homes are and how many are growing right now, because that will ease the pain of many of the residents. If we know there's 300 homes and they're being grown 10 here, 20, like spread out evenly throughout the 9 districts, and the people that are going to the homes have qualifications, have the police done their work to make sure that people that are going to their house have an ID card. I don't know if the homework's been done. The residents are blindsided by the ineffectiveness of how the decision-making process has taken place. So I'd like to see that step first. Identify the homes. Has the city police done their job to inspect these homes? They have the right. The city police, I believe, have the right to identify if a home is being grown in. Does that person have a lease? Do they have an issued physician card? What caregiver is taking care of them? See, that's an important fact. If you have that, then you go to step 2. What is step 2 for you? Step 2 to identify how many of those you need to satisfy to allocate a building for them, because then you'll know how many buildings you need. If you have only 100 homes that are being grown on Dearborn, in my opinion, I would just let that happen. I mean, I wouldn't solve a problem that doesn't really exist. But if we're hearing that there's people, a couple of neighbors, a neighbor here, a neighbor there is calling, complaining to the city council that next door neighbor to them is growing marijuana. Okay, but then you may have 500 calls of people saying, well, the building across the street from me, there's several caregivers who are doing this, and the smell is coming here. Now you have a bigger problem. You see, ideally people solve a problem. Ideally, the city council is being proposed. There's going to be filtration systems. There's going to be all this type of investment into these buildings. But as we know from the past, for example, the South End continues to deal with many industrial buildings who are violating ordinance every day. And what does these city inspectors do? They go out, issue a ticket of $500. The owner pays it, and it's cheaper for him to pay the ticket than comply with the ordinance. I'm afraid that the same thing will happen with city ordinances meant for the grow facilities. It's going to be much cheaper for them to pay a $1,000 ticket for somebody complaining about a smell than to invest in a $50,000 system to basically absorb the smell. And it could be many other problems. So all I'm saying in the next 90 days, the residents, the experts must be involved. People of first-hand knowledge must be involved, and hopefully come up with a solution that's equitable throughout the city. Not just the 4 districts, having the majority of the problem. If the zoning needs to happen in greater than an industrial building, let it be. You can't solve that problem, similar to what I said, by just saying, well, that's all we got to deal with, and the residents in those communities have to deal with this. So I hope in the next 90 days, some of my points are accounted for. I'm not sure what is the next, what is planned, from the city council members about study sessions involving experts, involving people who understand the complexity of what they got to take care of, involving demanding information from the city police department about their work. Putting in charge the legal department and asking them to do some work. In this particular arena.
Sure.
So these are the concerns these are the things that I think that would be necessary to bring this topic, and hopefully before 90 days, maybe in 45 days, we'll have a semi-solution. So stakeholders can examine it to see if they're good to move forward. Let's not do like last time, wait until 2 weeks before, and then announce that the city council is planning to vote on this on such an important topic. I can tell you, a lot of people got heated up. And you saw the Zoom call, over 100 people signed up. And you normally don't get 150 participants at any topic, except when it comes to this.
Exactly.
So that's all I got to say.
I hear your concerns, and I'm pretty sure that City Councilwoman Lesley hears your concerns as well. Lesley, your last remark, and if you want to add anything or comment on what Dr. Mo just said, or just last remark, and what do you think is going to happen? And if you also can share with us because you're running again for city council, if you can share with us like your website or anything that people can support you financially or just follow your news and where you're up to.
I appreciate that, Khodr. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate the opportunity to come and have a dialogue like this, because that's how progress is made, where you get people with different perspectives and different expertise. And I think you're right. That's why we're planning to have another study session, at least one more study session, where we can have experts come in and talk to us about what are other options. Because our goal as a body, and the 7 members on council all come from different backgrounds and different perspectives, but we've been very good about collaborating and trying to come up with a workable solution to everything that we've addressed over the past 4 years. We've had, I think, a very good city council that some of us are out in the community more than others, but others have different business expertise that they bring to the table. And our goal is to have everybody have as good a quality of life in living here in Dearborn or working here in Dearborn as possible. And you're obviously not going to always make everybody happy, but we're trying to do the best we can to do that. In this case, medical marijuana, being able to provide that medical marijuana to the people who depend on it for their personal care, to relieve their pain, whether it's cancer or that they have seizures or whatever their issue might be, that they can get it from a caregiver who is nearby and meet their needs. But we want to do that in as equitable a way as we can, so that it's not one area of the city that is burdened with having these grow facilities in their backyard. And so we've been looking at different solutions, as we talked about. The way that we can regulate it is only through zoning. It's not through just waving a wand and saying, we'll only allow X number of facilities here. As you said, the state, won't allow that. We have a burden that we have to meet at the state level. But we're trying to do it as fairly as possible for everybody here in the city. And as we talked about, right now there's a 90-day moratorium. We won't see any new facilities being granted licenses to open up here in Dearborn. And we've got 90 days in which we can continue to study it here. I appreciate that you are talking about my campaign. Sure. Yes, this is a big election year here in Dearborn. We've got a mayoral race where there are a number of highly qualified candidates who have entered the race. So that's tough decisions for the voters here in Dearborn. But it's good to have good options, qualified options.
It's a good problem.
It's a good problem to have. And same with City Council. I'm up for election. I've been serving, this is the 4th year during my first term, and I am eager to continue serving residents because, as you can tell, I have a lot of energy. I'm so excited to be part of a conversation where we are making meaningful decisions that are going to impact the quality of life for people who are here today and years into the future. And it's not just up to one person. You have to have all these voices at the table in order to be able to meet, the diverse needs of folks in our city. And our city isn't like any other city. We can compare what they're doing in Grand Rapids or Flint or, small towns across the state. But Dearborn is Dearborn. We're very unique. And our residents deserve us spending the time to try and come up with as solid a solution as we can to meet everybody's needs here. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on social media, Leslie Heyrick on Facebook, and you can look back at my posts going back way before I was on council about how involved I've been in the city, and that this has been a passion for me. You mentioned school board. I used to work for the school district, and so I have a familiarity with a lot of the issues that touch the families here in Dearborn, and I'm eager to continue serving.
Awesome. Leslie, we wish you the very best of luck alongside all the candidates, whether on the clerk, mayoral, or city council. Dr. Mo, thanks so much for all of your activism. We are going to continue this topic, guys, hopefully as we approach, and we are always here for you guys. And we appreciate your service wholeheartedly. مشاهدينا بنوصل لختام حلقتنا. بدي بس ترجم بسرعه صغيره بس اللي قال اخر شيء. ليزلي نزل على الانتخابات مره ثانيه. ليزلي هيريك على السوشيال ميديا هي عضو مجلس البلدي ونزل على الانتخابات. ايضا دكتور مو عم بيقول انه هو بيحب يشوف من هون 90 يوم شغله عم تنعمل بتروي مش بعجله. بحب يشوف اختصاصيين بالموضوع قانونيين لحتى يفرجونا شو اللي لازم نعمل. وهو بحب يشوف انه مش فقط زاوية او زاويتين من عندنا من المدينة عم بيتحملوا 80-90% من الاعباء، بحب يشوف المدينة كلها عم تتقسم بطريقة عادلة وشفافة. هذا الموضوع متابعينا طبعا ما فينا نختصره بساعة و10 دقائق. متشكر خينا حسين على مساعدته اليوم وعلى إضافة الوقت المتاح لنا، وعفوا ما قدرنا نجاوب على كل أسئلتكم نظرا للوقت، بس إن شاء الله نوعدكم كل ما يكون في شيء بهذا الموضوع رح نتابعه معكم. فبدي أتشكر كل المتابعين، كل الداعمين، كل المحبين. بدي أتشكر السبونسرز ليمو اكسبرس، مانجوز، تهامس، بلدي هول، مالتي ستيشن ميديا، وايضا اي بي لايتنج اند سبلايز. وان شاء الله بنعادل على الجميع اللي هابي ايستر باي ذا واي. wish you very happy Easter. عيد فصح مجيد للجميع. And then we will be with you guys next week before Ramadan, because Ramadan is also approaching us. بنعاد عليك داك بنعاد على كل المشاهدين اكيد. فان شاء الله ما بنتمنى غير السلامه. بتمنى لكم مني ومن فريق واتساب كل الخير. ملتقانا ان شاء الله الخميس القادم الساعه 8 بامان الله.
Thank you, Khodr. Thank you very much.